after X, granny after X. She knows the truth, she's linking every link.
Hello, I'm back. And I have two things to talk about right now. Well, maybe three things actually. But before I start, I suppose I should point out to you that I'm on my second dose of cocodamol and my third of ibuprofen. I am somewhat relaxed, but I'm happy, not to say intoxicated, to be fairly pain-free now. I even made it up the stairs to the attic, if somewhat slowly. So I'm going to be talking about the police's announcements about the dreadful case surrounding Ann Widdecombe. But not before telling you about my sweet, gentle dog, because he definitely deserves to be honoured at this time. Yesterday afternoon, I staggered into bed and stayed there with ice packs and a heat pad and the ibuprofen, which didn't seem to be doing very much actually, and the dog followed me into the bedroom. He took up his usual post in his basket under the window, which is just about a yard away from my side of the bed, and when my husband called him for supper, he refused to move but remained curled up in his basket a yard away from me. In the morning, he didn't get up as he usually does when my husband gets up. If he gets up before me, then the dog gets up with my husband and follows him out. But on this occasion, he didn't follow hubby out of the room to get his breakfast. Instead, he stayed by my side. And even when later on I limped into the kitchen, he walked with me, sticking to the side of my left leg. It was only when I sat down in the kitchen that he left me so he could get his breakfast. As healthy of an appetite as he has, he realised something was wrong, and he wasn't going to leave me while I was immobilised and therefore, obviously, in need of extra protection. I want to tell you I was so touched by that wordless loyalty. I just had to tell you all about it. Perhaps I can also draw a comparison between him, a creature whose very name is an insult in many languages, him and what appears to be the cowardly, indoctrinated zombie who drove for 4.5 hours in order to do away with a 78-year-old woman. This headline here says it all now. Ann Widdecombe killing being treated as terrorism. So let's get this straight. Yesterday, the Sun newspaper, their news hounds are nearly always the first and the most persistent. They released a video. I don't know where they got it from, but it could have been from some neighbour's CCTV. I'll play some of that for you now. So this is the prime suspect. You can see there's something in his pocket there. Can you see that? It's described as some sort of a stick. And he is in Rotherham in South Yorkshire at just before 8 in the morning. And as I say, packing what looks like a baseball bat sticking out of his pocket. So this so far unnamed man then set off on a 4.5 hour drive and ended up parking his car near the home of a prominent political figure. I'm describing Miss Widdecombe in that way for a particular reason. Because the police say that they can't form an opinion about the reasons for this man's long and exceedingly tedious journey, which appears to have ended in such bloodshed. In their words, detectives remain open-minded about the potential motive. At this stage, there's nothing to suggest it was politically motivated.
A 28-year-old white British man was arrested at an address in Rotherham, South Yorkshire, on suspicion of the murder of Miss Widdecombe. We were supported by officers from Counter-Terrorism Police North East and South Yorkshire Police who carried out the arrest on behalf of Devon and Cornwall. At this point, there is still no information to suggest that this is a terrorism-related incident, and at this point we are not looking for anyone else in connection with this murder.
So they're not looking for anyone else, which means they reckon they found their man, and they can't say whether or not it's terrorism related, even though it was a terrorism unit that went to pick the fellow up. Of course, I'm not a detective, and obviously I don't have the deductive training that the experienced men and women of our police force, of course. Now, I don't have the deductive ability that these pillars of the law have gathered in their years of experience, so I might be talking through my hat. But it seems to me that if someone takes a day trip from Rotherham to Devon, driving 4.5 hours with a baseball bat or some such item, fetches up on Miss Widdecombe's doorstep, and then, from the somewhat opaque information the police have released, he used the equipment he brought with him entirely to the bad. Does anyone sane think that he did all that because he thought her paso doble on Strictly was worthy of the most severe consequences? Well, perhaps my brain has been addled by the pharmaceuticals, but if you want my opinion, it's that there couldn't possibly be any other reason for what happened, that he'd been convinced either from some demons within himself or more likely from some outer agency, that it was necessary to punish Miss Widdecombe for her politics. We all know about the increasingly obvious habit of the IRGC to carry out assassinations by proxy, whipping up useful idiots to do their dirty work for them. Well, surely they're not the only ones. It's much less costly to target some nonentity of a malleable private citizen and brainwash him into taking the fall than to train and pay some James Bond to do it. Please note, I'm not privy to the investigation, and I'm simply asking anyone, including the police, why? Why are they being so assiduous about denying the one motive that sticks out like a rat on a slice of Victoria sponge as the most likely motive? I honestly don't know what they think they're doing by inching towards the truth of the matter in this way. Why can't they just say, well, it's likely that it is a politically motivated attack, but we can't be 100% certain at present, which at least shows us lesser mortals that they have some respect for our common sense. OK, well, that's my thoughts on the way this situation is developing. Until next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.